Hi, Joe. Thank you for coming in today.
Of course.
I want to talk about the accident that you witnessed on May 22nd, 2021. Where were you standing on the driveway and who were you with?
Yeah, so I was standing right in front of my car, which was about halfway up the driveway, and I was standing with Justine, a friend who I was seeing at the time at her family's house. I was about halfway up the driveway with a tree parked kind of to the side of my car.
And what did you see?
Well, at first I didn't see anything. I really just heard it, which was an engine roaring, kind of getting louder and closer. And then when I looked over in the direction of where the sound was coming from,
a black Mountaineer had entered our yard in between the fence line and the trees. So in between a space that's probably only wide enough to fit one car. And so I turned to look.
Coming off the street, passing through the fence and the tree line perfectly, and then coming into the driveway, hitting the back of one car, spinning it around, and then continuing to crash into another car that was facing in front of where Justine and I were standing. And it all happened pretty fast.
How did you react when the car was coming close to you?
That's a good question. You know, I always would laugh when I watched the movies and would see people just kind of freeze like a deer in headlights. But I think that's exactly what I did. And I hadn't expected to do that. You know, when you see those movies, you think, why didn't they just run out of the way? And it just all happened so quick, honestly, that I didn't move. I watched the car come in so quickly and I thought, you know, he must be stopping at some point. And I was just so confused that I did nothing. I did nothing as it smashed into one car and then right into the car beside us.
So it did not break at all, like no stopping point?
He didn't break once. He came right into that yard and we have a little divot and he was going so quickly that he came off the road and ended up surfing that little divot in the ground because he was going so quickly. The road is a 40-mile-per-hour road. I think he was going well over that.
When the incident happened, where were you?
So I was watching Justine walk out to this guy. She's her friend while he pulled in. So we were just watching her, and I was in my cousin's room on the second floor, looking down at Justine and her friend while he walked in, and all of a sudden I see this car coming in from the side and just hit two other cars and kind of stop in a ditch. And then I look back at where he entered and I was like, the fence isn't broken. I was like, did he go in through that crack? There was this little hole in between the fence and a pole. So I was like, he went in through there because the fence was fine. I was like, this is crazy. That's what I saw.
Did you help the driver out when he got out of the car?
So at first, no, the driver just climbed out of the car on his own, but I asked him if he was okay, and then I asked him what his name was, neither of which I really got any reply. But other than that, he got out on his own.
Did he say anything?
Just kind of said hi, and that he kind of motioned to his wrist that he had hurt it. I assumed that since the airbag went off, it would have burnt his wrist that was on the steering wheel at the time, but after that, he just walked straight into the house behind us.
When you saw the incident and when you went outside, what was your mind going through?
At first I was like, wow, this feels really surreal. So I was with my cousin and I was like, I'm gonna go get everyone, and he was gonna go to the front of the house. So I went to go get everyone, but then I thought I saw people walking forward to the front of the yard because they heard something, probably because there was a big crash. And then I'm at the front door or near the garage door, and I see this kid walk into the house, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, what are you doing here? And I was because I knew him, I was he was in some of my classes in high school. I was like, what? I was really confused. I was like,
What happened after that?
Well, I made sure that Justine, who was standing next to me, was going to call the police and then get a fire extinguisher at the same time, because it looked like the car was either smoking or steaming or something was coming out of the front part of the engine. And then I noticed the car was facing the woods and it seems like it was still running, so I actually went into the car to put it in the park and then turn it off. But by the time I had done that and went to get out of the car, everybody who was behind the house at the time came out to the front of the house and saw me exiting the car, making them believe that I was the one who was driving it.
Did they say anything to you?
Not to me directly at first. I think most people were worried about their cars and making sure Justine and everyone was okay. But then eventually we were able to sort out the details as we went along.
They were very confused as to whether he was the driver, if the driver was there or not. So when my dad reported the accident, he reported it as a hit and run. And he hadn't realized that the driver of the car had actually entered my house and was being cared for by my mother and her sisters. So there was a lot of confusion, a lot of high tension with the fact that so many cars were crashed into, and there was just a lot of damage. So I think there is a bit of a lack of communication between what had actually happened up until that point.
What happened when the police arrived?
So the police station is only 6 minutes away, which isn't very far. But when my dad had called in the accident as a hit and run, it took them over 30 minutes to get to my house. I think 32 to be exact. So understandably, there was a lot of frustration that my father had called in an accident and it had taken the police so long to show up, not knowing even if there was anybody hurt on scene or if anybody needed immediate help. So when the cops showed up, my father was very upset that it had taken them so long, and it was very hard to get the story straight with so many people seeing and witnessing different things when there was just so many people at the house.
Did the police talk to you for questioning?
Yeah, so the cops originally talked to my father, and then when they found out that the boy who had caused the accident was still there, they brought him to the front to talk, but they figured that he should probably get an ambulance and go to the hospital. So then the police talked to myself and Gerald separately and got an account, and also had us write down witness statements.
And that took about an hour to sit down and write through and go everything through that. But I think by the end of the day, we got all the information down that we needed to.
Did you stay for the whole time?
We did. We were there for the rest of the night. There was a lot of cleanup to do. The cars were in pieces everywhere. And so it was a group effort. Everybody was helping to pick up pieces of the car, to help remove valuables from the cars that they thought were necessary, and also to comfort people. People were upset and understandably shaken up by what had happened.
Did you stay the whole time when the cars got towed?
I actually left the scene. I was there for a pool party to begin with. So once everything was said and done with, after about an hour, I decided to just head to the back with everybody else so we could let the police and the tow trucks and everything that they needed to do get done and just be out of the way.
Well, we were at my home, which is here, and we had a family gathering, and it was summertime, or I guess it was warm weather, and we were swimming in the pool, and I was waiting for Justine to come with her friend.
And then what happened?
So I was standing right over here, right by the pool steps, and all of a sudden I heard a huge crash. I was like, oh my God, what is that? And I put down what I was holding and I ran to the gate and ran to the front yard, and I saw a car that was still running and steam was coming out, and all these cars that was family members' cars wrecked on the grass. And I see Justine standing there, and then I see two guys. Now I was expecting to see one guy, because that was somebody that she was bringing to the family to introduce to us.
And all of a sudden, I think Anne opened, she was inside the house at this point. She opened the slider, the sliding door to the pool, and she said, go to the front, call the police, go to the front.
I walked up to Justine and I said, what happened? And then I kind of alluded to Justine, which one is your friend and which one's the guy that crashed, because I didn't know who was who. And Justine said, this is Gerald. And then the kid that crashed the car was standing outside the car and was really disoriented. He looked pretty high and like just not even aware of what happened. He didn't seem very fazed by the fact that he just wrecked his car and hit 3 or 4 other cars. So I just checked that everyone was okay. I was really nervous. Gerald looked really kind of scared and like dazed a little bit, and Justine was kind of in disbelief. And the other kid was just kind of stumbling around, and I think he was holding his wrist. And I told him, why don't you come inside and we'll get you something to drink and you can just relax. So we came into the kitchen and I got him a glass of water.
3:15, nobody showed up. So I called the police department. I said, where's, did you send me somebody? They said, yeah, we sent you a trooper. We see him on North Main Street, which is like halfway point. And we waited a little longer. It felt like 6 hours, but in reality is this time, this probably was like good 25 minutes, 30 minutes maybe a little less, until the police came. At some point I realized that the driver was in our house. So that's kind of when the police came. That was kind of, there was a lot of retraction of what I said. I kept getting questioned, did the guy ran away? I was like, oh no, I just didn't realize that he went inside the house, so on and so forth.
And I said, why don't we call your parents? And he goes, okay. So he dialed the number on my phone and I took it from him and I put it on speakerphone because I wanted to be able to hear what his mom was saying and what he was saying. And he said to his mom, Mom, I got into a crash. And it was interesting, his mom's response. She was like, okay. You almost felt like this wasn't the first time that she had to deal with him getting into a car crash. And then she asked him, are you all right? And he was kind of, again, disoriented, and his response wasn't very clear. So I took the phone and I introduced myself and said, I'm the one who owns the house, my husband and I, and he crashed the car. You probably want to come here.
They realized that their cars are gonna get towed away, so they're trying to get things out of their cars. Cars were like trunks sealed shut, so we were like prying trunks open.
Yeah, I stayed until the police came. We went back outside. I got people water to drink. We're just trying to keep everyone's emotions calm. 2
or 3 more cruisers showed up, including like a lieutenant or a supervisor or somebody. A truck came by, maybe 2, and they started taking pictures of the scene.
When the kids' parents came, did they say anything to you, or you say anything to them?
They came, they pulled in, they pulled outside the fence, so they didn't come into the driveway. They pulled outside, and the dad understood the magnitude of what happened, especially. Cars were moved and piled on top of each other, and Gabby's crying, and so the dad knew that less is more when it came to talking. He did not want to talk much. He didn't want to. He felt like there's a lawsuit coming.
A few days after, in my English class, there was a kid, and he was like, Julia, like, did Michael crash into your yard? And I was like, no, that was like my cousin's house, but he like crashed into like my car and my cousin's car, and like all 3 cars were totaled. And he was like, yeah, that would be Michael, or something like that. And then like my friend next to me like turned to me and she's like, wait, that was you? That was your house? I didn't, or your cousin's house? I didn't know that was you, because I was like driving by like the scene and I kept like trying to see what was happening inside. She's like, I like drove by 3 times trying to like see what was going on. And I was like, yeah, that was me.
When you look back on that day, what do you think?
I think it was like, I still feel like it's kind of surreal. Like, I feel it was a little crazy, like how it all happened. Like, this kid from my school that goes in my classroom, like, hit, like, just like plowed through like Anne's front yard and like destroyed two other cars. I just thought it was really kind of crazy.
I think I'm pretty lucky that everyone got to be safe and that I got such a fun introduction to the whole family since that was my first time showing up to the house. But I hope that kid's doing better nowadays, and I'm glad that no one was hurt in the end and that everything was able to get solved.
I think, thank God, nobody got hurt because Justine and Gerald were very close to the car, and when it went over, and ran into our yard, so they were very close to the car. So I think, thank God, that they were okay. I was grateful for Gerald because I think he pulled her out of the way because I think Justine kind of was like stunned when she saw the car coming at her and didn't really move quickly.
The fact that he didn't hit somebody head on coming from the other side and kill somebody, the fact that he didn't hit anybody in walking the front yard or hit Justine or Gerald, I'm very thankful for that. I feel like a miracle happened that day.
I feel very lucky. And I don't think just for myself, but I think for everybody involved. I live on a main road, and the fact that he hadn't hit anybody coming into my yard, the fact that he didn't hurt himself by hitting any trees or the fence, and the fact that Gerald and I were safe, I think is huge. It's nothing short of a miracle that he didn't hurt anybody and that we were all safe. You can fix a couple cars, and that's no big problem comparatively to what could have happened. So I would say very lucky.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me.